Hello, welcome to Tangled Threads. If you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel. Let's go. When you share a living space with someone, whether they're family or not, a certain level of respect and understanding is essential. I learned this the hard way with my younger sister, Amy. For years, we had lived together peacefully, splitting the rent and utilities right down the middle. However, about 5 months ago, Amy began to dodge her responsibilities. I'd find subtle ways to remind her, leaving notes, sending text reminders, even sneakily setting calendar alerts on her phone. But every time I attempted to bring it up in person, Amy would just brush it off and retreat to her room, slamming the door behind her. I was bewildered. How could my sweet, responsible sister turn into this financial ghost? Months passed, with me bearing the brunt of the full rent and bills. I was getting frustrated, not to mention financially strained. The straw that broke the camel's back came when she splurged on a lavish weekend getaway, yet pleaded poverty when it came to paying rent. It was clear that she was taking advantage of my good nature and sisterly love. Something had to change. Before escalating to the dramatic, I decided to confront her one last time. I found her lounging in the living room, scrolling through pictures of her extravagant trip on her phone. I took a deep breath, gathering my resolve before starting the conversation. "Amy," I started, trying to keep my voice calm and even. "We need to talk about the rent." She barely looked up from her phone, letting out a non-committal, "Mm-hmm." "No, Amy," I said, my voice growing stronger. "We really need to talk. I can't afford to cover your half of the rent anymore. It's not fair." Finally, she glanced up at me, her eyebrows raised in faux surprise. "Oh, are we still on about that? I told you I just need a bit more time." I felt my anger surge. "It's been 5 months, Amy. How much more time do you need? You can't just avoid it and hope it disappears." Instead of responding, she shrugged, offering a dismissive, "whatever," before retreating to her room, once again leaving me frustrated and ignored. That's when I realized a conversation wouldn't be enough to make her understand the gravity of the situation. So I decided to change my approach. So, I hatched a plan that was as outrageous as it was brilliant. It started with a late-night visit to my buddy Carlos, a local mariachi band leader and my best friend from school. After explaining my situation and some catching up, he agreed to help me out. At 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, Carlos, along with the rest of his boisterous band, piled into my tiny apartment. The blasting horns, strumming guitars, and rhythmic maracas echoed through the thin walls, causing a cacophonous wake-up call. I stifled a giggle as I led them to the last place Amy would expect, a serenade right outside her bedroom door. The first trumpet notes pierced the early morning silence like a shot, followed by the throaty bellow of Carlos's singing. I flung open Amy's door, revealing her sprawled on her bed, a look of utter shock pasted on her face. Her eyes were wide open, darting frantically from one band member to another as they passionately belted out a song in the cramped room. What the hell is this?" she spluttered, sitting upright and clutching her sheets around her. The cymbals crashed in response, adding punctuation to her startled outcry. I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorframe. "This, Amy, is your wake-up call." She frowned, trying to piece together the situation. The vibrato of the guitars made the confusion on her face even more comedic. She looked like she was in a fever dream. I don't understand," she managed to yell over the escalating melody. I raised my voice. "Well, you haven't been paying rent, so I thought I'd get some entertainment for my money." I gestured at the band, who had now launched into a rousing chorus. Carlos gave me a cheeky wink, his trumpet never missing a beat. Amy gaped at me. The confusion faded, replaced by a dawning understanding. She opened her mouth to argue, but another trumpet blast made her wince. Instead, she opted to cover her ears with her pillow, her eyes throwing daggers at me. In the end, Amy had no choice but to listen to my grievances, what with a full mariachi band in her room preventing any retreat. We sat down that very morning, post-serenade, and hashed out a repayment plan for her past due rent and her future share. Carlos and his band left a lasting impression on her, and probably our neighbors too, and I don't anticipate her shirking her financial responsibilities again anytime soon. As they say, desperate times call for desperate measures. Or in this case, a mariachi band at 3 a.m. Sure, it might have been a tad extreme, but sometimes you have to get creative when it comes to familial disputes. And honestly, I would pay to see the look on Amy's face again when that first trumpet note hit. Priceless. Just when I thought peace was finally restored in our humble abode, the old habits of my dear sister Amy began creeping back in. Once again, Rent payments became as elusive as a snowfall in July. This time, however, I was prepared. I had an ace up my sleeve, waiting for the perfect moment. Amy's birthday was approaching. It would have been a day of celebration, of cake and gifts. However, my depleted bank account, thanks to footing all the rent, had other plans. The stunt I had in mind would be bigger, louder, and a spectacle that Amy would never forget. But I couldn't afford it all on my own. I needed reinforcements. So I turned to our circle of friends. When I explained my predicament, they were more than willing to help. Some were old roommates who understood the gravity of Amy's disrespect, while others were just up for a good laugh. Collectively, we pooled our resources and made our move. The local church choir was renowned in our small town. They were famous for their heavenly harmonies and the sheer power of their performances, especially in enclosed spaces. Once they agreed to my outrageous plan, all that was left was to wait for D-Day. On Amy's birthday, she was expecting a quiet morning, a gentle easing into her special day. But as the clock struck 7 a.m., the air was filled with an ethereal rendition of Happy Birthday. The choir, all 25 members strong, stood just outside Amy's bedroom, their powerful voices creating a rich tapestry of sound that filled our tiny apartment. The look of shock on Amy's face when I opened her bedroom door was 10 times more satisfying than the last. She sat bolt upright, her messy morning hair standing on end, eyes round as saucers. The choir's voices swelled to a crescendo as they sang, their angelic tones punctuated by the occasional giggle from me and our gathered friends. "What? Why? How?" she stammered, her groggy mind attempting to make sense of the spectacle before her. I could barely contain my laughter as I shrugged and replied, "Well, we wanted to give you a birthday present you'd never forget. And remind you to pay your damn rent," I added, my voice barely heard over the grand finale of Happy Birthday. Our friends, who had been watching the whole spectacle from the living room, broke into laughter and applause. Amy's face turned from shock to embarrassment to resignation. She sighed heavily, glancing over at me with a mixture of annoyance and grudging respect. With the choir's departure, a serious discussion ensued, fueled by birthday cake and a firm resolve. This time there were no half promises or vague commitments. Amy agreed to make amends and pay back her due rent. Looking back, it might have seemed harsh, disrupting Amy's birthday like that. But I think it was just the wake-up call she needed, delivered in the most unexpected and entertaining way. I'm now confident that Amy will think twice before she considers avoiding rent again. I mean, who knows what I might orchestrate next time, maybe a full orchestra. I bet Amy will be seeing Rent in her nightmares, accompanied by the tune of mariachi trumpets and choir harmonies. What do you think? Let us know in the comments section below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threads.